Admiral Allen again, as well as to Mr. Treadwell. These two gentlemen have been here since testifying in the Arctic since 2001, at least since I've been here. So thanks for having another hearing on the Arctic. So a couple questions. First with Ms. Conley, and I know some of this has been asked, or some of the subject matter has been asked, but could you, through your you have testimony, answer the question, what are China's motivations regarding the increased Arctic presence?
So quite frankly, there is a strong desire for economic presence. First and foremost, energy resources, which is why they are now investing very strongly in the Yamal LNG project. And I think this will expand, so energy. Secondly, and I don't think we should discount that, is the protein. Fisheries are continuing to be very attractive for China as alternative sources. And then finally, shipping. This is an alternative to the Straits of Malacca, should those, for conflictual purposes, not be available to them. They see the opportunity of reducing transshipment by 30%, which is why the transpolar route is very important. Right now, the Arctic is primarily energy. That will be the back and forth to Yamal. But every year, COSCO, the shipping company, tests a container ship. The Northern Sea Route is too shallow for deep container traffic. That's what makes the transpolar route. And if you looked at the map, which is why Iceland is so vital to China's projection in the Arctic, because again, they'll need to use the Bering Strait, but you could see where potential port infrastructure in Iceland would then be a dispersant to both North America as well as Northern Europe potentially. So the Chinese have their vision is to 2040, 2050. They are thinking that far ahead. They are seeing what is possible. They are looking for those opportunities. It may not work, but to have that length of projection of what you want and to shape it, to have access to fisheries, shipping, energy. At this point, I don't foresee a military role. It's predominantly economic, but there will be dual-use capabilities. We have to remember that the U.S. missile defense architecture is in the Arctic at Thule Air Force Base in Greenland, of course, and Fort Greely in Alaska. That could also be potentially compromised, so we have to think more long-term in that.
And that gets to the next question. What should our motivations be in the Arctic? What should U.S. motivations be?
This is about protecting the United States. It's about ensuring that we protect our territory, our airspace, our maritime capabilities first and foremost. And then secondly, we want to shape this region to make sure it's stable and prosperous, to make sure rules and norms are followed, that we have access to the high seas. And in order to do that, we have to increase our physical presence across the region, both terrestrial and maritime.
Yeah, so there's a map up, and if you look at the side, you can see it. If you put on my glasses, you can see it. I can barely see it without them. But it doesn't do a lot of justice to issues here. And Admiral Allen, maybe you could talk a little bit about this, since you've been chewing on this problem for a while. Off of the coast of the United States, it's just fairly open water. But if you go to Canada, I mean, it gives an impression of the land masses in northern Canada, but there's many more islands. The same with Russia. It's not as unpopulated by islands and land as it comes across in the map. The point is that almost every country's Arctic is a different Arctic, and it's impacted by different weather as well. So I'm wondering if, in your time thinking about this, kind of what challenges do each of those Arctics provide to those countries compared to what we have, the challenges that we have with our Arctic? I'm sorry that I don't have a lot of time left. I won't keep the committee here long. So.
Thanks, sir. Excellent question. First of all, let me associate myself with Ms. Conley's remarks. I support them completely. Let me just add a couple things onto it. Each one of those routes is different because of the status of the waterways related to whether or not they're in international waters, internal waters, territorial sea, or in the case of the Bering Straits, under the law of the Sea Treaty, that would be classified as a transit strait. A transit strait is a strait that connects two international bodies of water, and transit through there cannot be inhibited. And when we talk about fees and tariffs, that's all possible. But there was a landmark case in the Torres Straits north of Australia where they attempted to establish a pilotage charge. And there may be some conflicts moving ahead that have to be discussed. But it's not clear. There's a difference in the Canadian view of the Northwest Passage route versus our view. There are still claims on our boundary in the Beaufort Sea between the U.S. and Canada. And one of the reasons that the Russians can establish charges there, it becomes in internal waters. And they can make that mandatory because it's not a transit strait.
Right.
Is that helpful?
That is helpful. It's one of the differences. Did Ms. Tingstad, did you have a?
If I may add a follow-up.
Yeah, sure. I guess, Mr. Chairman. Is that all right?
Without objection.
All right. Thank you for the extra
Especially
time.
if that's
Thank you.
the final question. Well, thank you all very much.
Sorry. Oh, so just a follow-up quickly.
Gentlemen's time has expired, but
you.
without objection. Go ahead. No, I don't. I thought you were going to submit it for the record. I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand?
No, I
Oh,
don't
forgive
have
me. No, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, not at all. No, I wanted to add that in terms of the differences in the Arctics, we should look forward to the changes that are occurring differentially across the region. So those routes that we see here, I mean, those are lines for convenience, approximately where they would be, of course. But then there's also going to be a differential in how quickly those waters will be open and for how long during the year. So, you know, we're looking at actually some studies have shown that middle route across the center is actually going to be more frequently open for longer durations than the route that goes across the Northwest Passage, just due to some long-lying ice that's projected to stay out there for some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kingstead, and forgive my clumsiness. I misunderstood your initial response. I want to thank our panel. Seeing no further questions from the members, I ask unanimous consent that the record of today's hearing remain open until such time as our witnesses have provided answers.